Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello nerds! How are you? I'm doing really good actually. I feel a bit like a phoenix who's come out of the ashes. It was my grandma's funeral a few weeks ago, and I was not sad about her passing away. She passed away. It was a long journey because she had dementia. So I had actually said goodbye to her before going through hike the PCT in 2019. And back then she didn't even remember me. So I've had time to grieve. But the funeral was, a special event with all of my extended family. Everyone gathered together for the first time in so long. Just that in itself was beautiful, but also exhausting. And it sent me in a weird kind of mood for longer than I expected. Kind of sent me within myself. I had a hard time showing up on social media. I was very quiet, very introspective, and felt like I needed to reconnect with what matters most to me. So I spent a lot of time with the people I love most. I spent a lot of time sitting alone with myself, and I spent a lot of time just reading. This is a summer of reading for me, and I'm really excited. I've been reading so much and sitting in the sun to reading. It like settles something for me. Like whenever I feel like a inner turbulence, I just sit with a book, and eventually the turbulence calms down and it becomes like a calm sea within myself, and feels so good. So if you love reading as well, don't forget to get my book list. I made an amazing list of 30 books I recommend, self-growth, mostly self-growth themed books. They're all divided in categories. There's like books about purpose, books about money, about what else, confidence, a bunch of different topics. And all of the books are paired with a podcast episode. So I really put a lot of love into this document. It's a document that you'll be able to go back to again and again and again. So if you want to download this, just go to selfgrowthnerds.com/more, and you'll be able to give me your email, and I'll send you the list. So selfgrowthnerds.com/more, and you're going to get like so many books that you can read over the summer. All right, so today I want to talk about the difference between short-term cravings and long-term desires. But first, let me put you in context, okay? So I've been talking about books, I've been reading the book, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Not sure how you pronounce their last name, Haig, Haig. And in that novel, it's the story of Nora Seed. Nora is between life and death, and she arrives at the Midnight Library where there's an infinite number of books, and every book represents a life that she could have lived had she taken different decisions. Okay? So if she married someone else, if she decided to go study this other subject at university, all of these decisions that we make in life influence like the branch that we take. So this is what this book is about. And to me, let me be honest, it's like porn. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm pretty restless. I'm very passionate. There's so many lives I would like to experience, like so many foods I would like to taste. I would have loved to study marine biology, live in Hawaii, work on a cruise ship. I can think of so many possibilities of lives I would have loved to experience. But obviously there's only so much you can do. There's a lot you can do within one life, but you cannot do it all. And right now I've been in the same city, Montreal, for 7 years, and with the same person, same partner for 6 years. This is a record for me. Record? No. Record. How do you say it? Record. And yeah, I get restless. I want to try all the things. So I tend to look around and wonder, could I be living a more exciting life somewhere else? And this is a strength, but it's also a dangerous trap. It's a strength because this desire to experience life has allowed me to has made it easier for me to try new things and not be too much of a perfectionist. But it's a dangerous trap because if you don't stick around to care for your garden, you never get to see it bloom and harvest its most nourishing foods, right? When you plant a seed, it takes time. It takes time to grow. And if you get impatient and you leave, then you're missing out. So I've been experiencing a profound shift in the last few months. I'd say it started around the month of February or March. I want to deepen my roots, but it feels so freaking challenging. It goes against the person I've been throughout my whole 20s. When I was in high school, I was already thinking about, what next? I want to spend a year abroad. I want to live in a different country. I want to try this. I want to try that. I want to be in a relationship with an eccentric artist. I want to be in a relationship with this other kind of person. I want to try it all. So it goes against my pattern. And I know I'm not the only one because it's human nature to seek dopamine. We're dopamine addicts. And one thing that gives us a lot of dopamine is new beginnings and novelty. It's no wonder romantic comedies are about the start of a love story most of the time. Because after a while, it requires a lot more conscious effort to see the beauty in something. We want to hear about people falling in love and how they met and someone getting a new gig, getting a new contract, someone quitting their job to move to Hawaii. That's what we romanticize. But speaking of Hawaii, one of my clients actually did move to Hawaii. She quit her job on the mainland, her corporate job, and she moved to Hawaii to start a business. And she told me everyone expects her to have epic stories what do you do on the weekends? Do you go hike big mountains? What kind of animals do you see? But she says she almost feels guilty that the reality is, she just lives her life, but the backdrop's different. So she still replies to emails. She still feels anxious about work sometimes. On the weekend, she's gonna lie down in a hammock to read a book. She's gonna run errands. But there's palm trees, and that's the difference. There is a misconception that building a life that you love, a life that you don't feel the need to escape from, is about where you live, what you do, who you're with. But the truth is, yes, these things matter. But the truth is, it's mostly about what goes on between your ears. You can live in the most beautiful place, be with the person of your dreams, have the best job in the world. if what goes on between your ears is unmanaged, then you're not going to be able to appreciate what you do have. Okay? So we have to know how to manage our minds. And one part of this that I want to talk about today is we have to know how to calm the tension of short-term cravings and how to stick around for long-term desires. Otherwise, we're going to spend our lives planting seeds, getting bored, going somewhere else to plant the seed again, and then getting bored again, right? And this might not be as concrete as moving cities and changing partners. It might be different for you. It might just be changing jobs, or it might be just feeling constantly unsatisfied with your projects. Thinking like, I have everything in my life looks good on paper, but there's a gaping hole inside of me that I can't fill, okay? So maybe you've been in your hometown for 20, 30 years, but you've been craving a way to fill this hole within yourself, and maybe keeping it a secret because you feel guilty. Because like, who am I to complain when I have this beautiful life? But the truth is you have something missing, and you don't really know how to feel whole again. That's where the knowing the difference between short-term cravings and long-term desires is really important. Because you have two choices, basically. You can try to fill that hole with short-term cravings, and that's going to look like seeking immediate pleasure or immediate, like the quickest relief from the pain that you feel in your external environment. So that means like, oh, okay, maybe if I get a new sofa, it's going to freshen up my life and I'm going to feel better. Maybe if I get a new position at work. Or maybe you look at like the neighbor's partner, the neighbor's spouse, and think, what would my life be if I was with them instead? And so you kind of imagine like an alternate life with your neighbor's spouse, and become distant with your own partner. This can also look like setting a New Year's resolution, or starting a new diet or a new training program, hoping that that's gonna be the one. There is like an urgency, or like a quiet desperation in those kinds of cravings, because short-term cravings come from the primitive brain. It's like a stress response. I don't feel good right now, and I must do something in order not to feel this way. Okay, it's like I was telling you about last week. It's you're in a rush to feel better, and you're like willing to try all kinds of things in order to feel better. And that's when things like overeating and overdrinking and getting lost in work, or getting lost in like scrolling your phone, that's when it happens. And all of these cravings are controlled by the primitive brain, whose job is to keep us safe, to do whatever it takes for us to avoid pain. But the primitive brain is not the part of our brain that takes wise decisions. It's not. So if you build your life by letting your primitive brain lead the way, that's when you hop from one thing to the other. That's when you spend a lot of time dancing at the start line. Okay? And you don't build anything substantial, anything that's truly, deeply rich. And that's when long-term desires come into play. Now, long-term desires are a lot more boring. They operate in the neocortex or the prefrontal cortex, the newer part of our brain, where all the creativity and the wise problem solving happens. The thing is, long-term desires are like a steady drip. It's what your inner voice keeps bringing back to you again and again and again. But in order to hear your inner voice is very quiet. You need to have a calm mind. So it's things like, I want to be at peace. I want to be loved. I want to be free. I want to travel. I want to use my creativity. I want to connect deeply. They're a lot less grandiose. They require more commitment. They require difficult conversations. For example, if you want to build meaningful connection with your partner, there will be tumultuous times to move through, and you'll get to decide, am I going to have the difficult conversations, or am I going to take the easy path and go to a different partner, go find a different partner? Same thing at work. We had a workshop about salary negotiation inside Brave and Bold, and the guest was telling us how many people, when they want to get a raise, what they're going to do is they're going to change company. They're going to go somewhere else because it's the easy way, rather than building relationship with their manager, standing up for what they want, asking for what they want, having that kind of difficult conversation with their manager, saying like, here's how much I would like to be paid, here's how much I would like to be compensated, and what needs to be achieved in order for this to happen. This requires a lot of courage. So what many people are going to do instead is just change companies. It's an easy way to get a raise. And that's not a judgment. You might have done that in the past, and that's fine. I've definitely done similar things. I've definitely changed partners in the past just because I didn't want to face whatever was going on. Sometimes it's the right decision, but eventually, if we don't learn to stick around for the hard stuff, then we don't get our long-term desires. I'm going to read a passage from the book Clarity and Connection from Young Pueblo about the difference between craving and wanting. So it's basically the same as the difference between short-term cravings and long-term desires. Okay, so he writes, wanting and craving are not the same thing. Simply wanting is a natural pursuit that focuses our energy. Craving occurs when wanting deepens and becomes filled with tension or stress. The stress worsens when we do not succeed in getting the thing we crave. Craving is ultimately the source of our mental struggle and dissatisfaction. Even when our attachments are successful in molding reality, we still find ourselves dissatisfied because craving is an endless pit. Once the sensation we pursued has passed, the mind will return to craving more because craving is what it knows best. It is important to note that there is a substantial difference between craving and having goals or preferences. It is possible to pursue our aspirations without the stress that comes with craving and attachment. It is good and healthy to pursue our goals, but it serves us best to do so wisely and in a manner that does not make our happiness dependent on future achievements. We know that something is a preference or a simple desire when we do not have the fate of our happiness connected to its realization. We know it is a preference when things do not happen the way we want them to, and we accept this reality without the intensity of pain or hurt. We know something is an attachment when we feel mental tension, pain, and misery when we do not get what we crave. This is so good. And this is what I talk about so much with my clients. For example, one of them launched their first product. They're building a side business so that eventually they can leave their 9-to-5 job and have more flexibility. So while we were working together, they developed their first product and they launched it recently. And we were talking about their launch goal, and they said, I kind of want to sell 15 in the first week, but at the same time, I don't want to be attached to the result, because then if I don't reach 15, I'm going to be really disappointed. And to me, it's like, that's super interesting. Because you can decide to set a goal for 15 just as a fun experiment. And then if you don't reach that goal, so what? You don't have to make it mean anything about yourself. And if you're disappointed, that's okay. It's like, I don't want to be attached to the result because I don't want to feel the disappointment. But what if feeling disappointed was okay? What if opening yourself up to disappointment also opened yourself up to the possibility of massive pride? The link I am making here with craving versus wanting is that when you set a goal and you're attached to the result, it is short-term craving, because you're looking to the result as a way to feel good. Whereas if you just want to experiment, like the way I approach my business most of the time is I'm just trying things. I have a playful approach. Let's set a goal and see what happens. Let's see what I'm going to learn and how I can surprise myself. Hear how I don't attach my personal worth and my feelings to my business goals. And even if like my business was to disappear, or it was to like fail miserably and I had to do something else, that's okay. I know I'd be fine. I could just go work at the coffee shop nearby and I know I would be fine. And this mindset is a freaking life changer, because if you think, oh, that failure is so bad, and that if you fail, you're going to make it mean something super embarrassing about yourself, then you're never going to try. You're never going to try big things if you think that those big things not working out means something about you. Whereas if you don't have attachment to whatever happens, then you're free to try all of the things. Because you know that whatever happens, you're still going to love yourself and you're still going to have people who love you. You're not going to die. And you sense the difference? If you live your life, if you're feeding yourself with short-term cravings, you're not going to have the grit or the resilience to stick around for long-term desires. One of my long-term desires is to build my business, to build a business that allows me to use all of my creativity, to be deeply connected to people, to have meaningful impact, to be free financially, but also free to work whenever I want and whenever I want. So I can go kayaking. At lunch. Tomorrow I'm taking the day off. We're going camping and climbing. these for me were long-term desires, and I had to put in the work to make this a possibility. I had to put short-term cravings to the side very often to build my long-term desire. And that's one thing we do inside Brave and Bold is getting clear on what the hell your long-term desires are. What your vision for your life is and what that's going to require. Getting to know this requires a lot of self-awareness. It requires, like one of my clients, Kate, said, pushing the debris away so that you can see the truth of who you are and what you want, not get mixed up with other people's expectations or what you think you should want or what seems to make other people happy. Okay? So we do that deep inner work to get to know yourself and what's truly going to serve you in the long term. We do that in Brave and Bold. One thing we do also, and I want to quote Yung Pueblo again, because I read his book in 2 days, and highlighted most of it. He says, we have to stand next to the river that is the human mind and watch as things flow by. Because that's the thing. That's one thing I teach my clients is the river of your mind is going to flow with so much crap in it. Like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. This is going to make us feel better. That's the primitive brain at work. That's super normal. That's super normal. And we have to be able to watch the river flow by and be like, wait. What is it underneath all of that I want to pursue? Okay. And as Yung Pueblo writes right after this sentence, he writes, without self-awareness, it is difficult to make choices that differ from those you have made in the past. And that goes back to what I was telling you at the beginning. My usual pattern, since I was like since I was like 14. When I was 14, I went to study abroad in Saskatchewan. And since then, I was like addicted to like going to other places, like trying out different lives. I had a coffee truck. I was a graphic designer, an illustrator, and I have no regrets. This was all great, but this is not sustainable long term. This is not going to help me build the life I want. So where was I going with this? So yeah, but this was my pattern. Yes, that's what I was going to say. This was my pattern from the age of like 14 to the age of basically 31, 32. This is a pattern that my nervous system is used to, that my nervous system just wants to recreate. Let's jump to the next thing. Okay, let's jump to the next thing. And we love familiarity. Our primitive brain loves the known, everything that's familiar. So it just wants to repeat the past. And that's going to happen unconsciously. You're just going to crave repeating the past, repeating the pattern that you've learned. So if you want that to change, then it's going to require huge amounts of self-awareness. And that's why I love Brave and Bold, because you get immersed for 6 months every week in that way of thinking. You get super aware of what's going on inside of you. And it's a turning point in your life where you stop repeating the patterns from the past and you start living intentionally. You start creating your life intentionally, not driven by past patterns or not driven by fear. So yeah. And I'm going to end with an analogy that the client I mentioned earlier shared with me yesterday. She said, you push the debris away. And again, the debris represent like what you think you're supposed to want and the obstacles that you put in your way and how you've been socialized. You push the debris away and then you're kind of like a little mushroom. You grow, you come out of the earth. And it takes effort to grow. it is uncomfortable to grow. But then the more you grow, the more you see the sun, the more you get the lightheartedness that comes with seeing the sun. And that's one thing that happens with the self-awareness comes a clear mind. And damn, that feels so freaking good. Yeah. There's something so enriching and grounding about having a clear mind and being able to accept the reality of a peaceful Thursday morning, a kind and loving partner, a beautiful, comfortable home, and sticking to your long-term commitments. So if that resonates with you and you're interested in working together, go to selfgrowthnerds.com/braveandbold to apply. And once you apply, I'll tell you more about whether or not we're a good fit and how we can work together. All right. I love you. I hope this was, I don't hope. I know this was super useful. I know many of you needed to hear this. And I will talk to you next week. All right. Bye-bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.